Hello, movie and entertainment fans, and welcome back to the Calvin Cam podcast, where we tackle all sorts of topics in the film, television, and video game world. I'm Calvin, and today joining me on this episode is a very special guest, my good friend Pedro.
Hey, that's me. It's Pedro. What's up, guys? Happy to be here, Siege.
Happy to have you. And today's episode is about James Gunn's plan for the DCU moving forward at Warner Bros. Oh, DC, where to begin? For years now in film, DC Comics has been a hot topic and not in a good way. It's like being on a roller coaster with ups and downs as of late, and hardly any ups as far as the films themselves go. Not to mention the production aspect of the movies, with rewrites, changes of actors, and complete cancellations of projects entirely. But through all of the negatives, we might be approaching the best thing to happen to DC Comics movies.
I mean, yeah, I can't really think of much like that DC wise that I've been excited for. Like maybe the Batman, but it's always been like small projects or like, well, not small, but like just like independently. They're not like Marvel where it's like, oh, cool, the next Marvel movie's coming out. Well, I want to see that. It's like, oh, the Batman's coming out. Well, I like Batman. I'll go see that.
Well, yeah, because in the Batman movies are like not a part of like the major universe that DC has been trying to build forever since like Man of Steel.
Exactly. I mean, I don't fucking the DCU was not, was it EU? It was what it was.
DCEU
is not like anything continuous that I could follow along. Like I couldn't tell you clearly what's in it and what's not, besides like the big ones like Man of Steel or Aquaman. Like the other offshoots, I think, like was it the CW stuff? Like
yeah,
that's
we
all.
had the CW. Some of it was supposed to. No, I actually think it's all separate. There was like an episode I feel of The Flash that had Ezra Miller in it as well.
That would, I mean, that would fit. But see that's the thing is it's like there's not like a clear cut. It's not 100% clear. So yeah. So looking forward, it sounds like that might be a little different, though.
Yeah, definitely we're going in a much better direction. And at first, when I heard James Gunn was hired on by Warner Bros., I was really excited. For those of you who don't know, James Gunn has recently been hired by Warner Bros. As the new co-CEO of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran. A huge move by Warner Bros. Formerly, Walter Hamada was CEO, and I can only imagine he was let go because WB obviously knew that the current state of the DC studios is in shambles.
Because they've been hemorrhaging money. Because it's just not like the last really good thing that came out of DC was his stuff with Peacemaker.
Yeah, and they're like destroying characters that we love. Like
I heard you tell me about Black Adam, and I'm like, I don't even want to touch that. And I was excited for Black Adam because I love that comic, or him in the comics. Black Adam's just a neat character to me, and it sounds like they fucked it up despite all the stuff The Rock said.
I know, like, and I rather enjoy Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, me too.
He's in everything nowadays, so like I'm usually looking forward to seeing like mindless action.
But yeah, exactly. But it doesn't sound like.
But I went and I took my son to go see it, and it was an experience. He was not entertained, and I was ready to leave. Probably 30 minutes into the movie, I was like, I'm not about this. So I personally think it was one of the biggest and smartest decisions for the company to hire somebody like James Gunn, who has such a presence and experience in comic book movies like Guardians of the Galaxy over at Marvel Studios, and standalones like Brightburn and the recent reboot of Suicide Squad. And Peter Safran, who is a very great producer in the industry, giving life to some of the best horror movies out there, like the Conjuring franchise.
Wait, he's gonna be a part of it?
Yeah, so Peter Safran.
So that's who. Okay, so when we were watching the video and he was mentioning Peter, I did not know. Today was the day when you told me that I found out. I had no idea James Gunn involvement, anything beyond like he was doing Peacemaker. So so I had no idea who Peter was.
Yeah, and see, Pedro is a prime example of like DC fans not giving a shit anymore about the state that DC's in because we've just been dealt crap.
My history is I fucking love DC. CJ, you're the one that got me into comics, starting with Batman and then into Spider-Man. And I've been a DC fan for years. And then it's just, how many times do they hit me with bad or mediocre movies and with all these promises? And the comics too, but that's another thing to talk about.
Yeah, and like we started off strong with like Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. Like Man of Steel is a fantastic,
great movie.
I personally think that it is my favorite DC movie as of today. Man of Steel, its score is incredible. Its acting is incredible. Henry Cavill is one of the best, if not the best Superman. And it's so funny of how much backlash that movie got from the general audience when it came out. I don't know if you remember, people were freaking out because they were like, that's not my Superman. Superman would never act like that. They were like, the general audience, the general public, they were mad because of the amount of destruction that happened in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think people they don't say anything when a movie like Star Wars comes out and we have Starkiller Base destroying like 5 planets at once.
Yeah.
Which is billions and billions of life, like just gone. And nobody's like, oh, you hate things. I can't believe they would do that.
And like the Superman, at least like within the Man of Steel story, it had some sense. Like Superman wasn't in that movie the Superman we see, the golden shiny boy. Like he was still super inexperienced with it all.
Yeah, this was a Superman who had to hide himself from the world constantly. I mean, I know that's how the story goes in general. It felt like even more so in Zack Snyder's or Christopher Nolan's, his take on Superman. And was it Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan? Shit,
I think it was Zack Snyder.
Okay, yeah, it was Zack Snyder. But like his take was like a very, very grounded and very new Superman to the world.
Well, and like it's a character moment. So like he has the, and they do this with these movies. They don't do it exactly like your mainstream comics, and that can be good. Like they've done that in the Marvel U and it has worked, but like you take this Superman and now he has room to grow. He has these massive tragedies. He has to know because, I mean, his senses are so good. He probably heard every person dying as they were dying as he was being thrown through those buildings. Like
he probably heard everybody in the world dying when he was like little.
Like he was thrown a severely, almost impossible task ahead of him. He was fighting pure Kryptonian warrior class people that had no remorse for the human life, like death. Like there was no remorse because that's just not what they're gonna do. So he was thrown that, and he had to deal. So like it's tragic that he had to like he was the result of a lot of people dying, but now he has a base that he can build off of and build trust back and go forward from. So storytelling wise, that's great. It's just another Superman story to me. Now that's our base, go with it. But
exactly, and they had it. We could have gone and taken off from there into greatness, but instead we moved on and we got Batman versus Superman with Ben Affleck, and then Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman's great. The second one, not so much. And as much as I want to spend time talking on all of these films individually, like me and Pedro could talk about these things for hours and hours on end.
Big news, big things coming.
Yeah, because big things coming. Real quick before we move on, like back to Man of Steel, like this is a prime example of what DC has put out so far, because we've all wanted Henry Cavill back. Mm-hmm. We got Henry Cavill back in Black Adam at the very, very, very end of the movie. Spoiler. Like you care. And then Henry Cavill comes out and he's like, I'm back. A week later, Henry Cavill is not back. The DCU is completely torn apart. Walter Hamada and James Gunn is now the new CEO with Peter.
And so I mean, I watched Peacemaker. So when you told me today that James Gunn is freaking co-CEO, already my trust level shot up for a possibility, which is something I have not felt in a very very long time with DC.
Yeah, and the DC universe, it has a darker tone than other comic books. So I'd like to say that James Gunn is a fantastic choice. Getting into the episode, it's about James Gunn. A few days ago, he put out a video and revealed the DCU film slate and some plans moving forward at DC Studios. So James Gunn goes on to talk about how the DCEU is now the DCU and has been so disconnected between films and television shows, and that is one of the major focuses they are going to focus on going forward, is to make the new DCU have more of a stable and consistent continuity, and any movies outside of that continuity under the or over their projects. Like I think he said it's called DC Elseworlds, like Matt Reeves' new Batman movies with Robert Pattinson, or Joker, the sequel to Joker with Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn, and the Joker 2 is a musical. Pedro's looking at me like, what the fuck?
Well, I haven't heard about this. That's insane.
Yeah.
I love it, but it's Gaga, so I'm there.
It's crazy, right? And so any movies that come out that are stories to be told not in that continuity will have DC Elseworlds before it.
A clear stamp of what's what, which sounds great to me. Just some consistency would be nice.
And another awesome thing that James Gunn is doing at DC is that he said all of the content is going to be tied together between the movies, the TV shows, the animated shows and movies, and the video games. And he's saying that the actors that portray the characters in all of that media are going to stay the same. That meaning the voice actors for the animated shows and movies and video games, voice actors will all be played by the same people in their live action forms in the main DC continuity.
It's going to be an interesting test for all these actors, because I mean, I feel like from what I've seen behind the scenes stuff with people talking about doing voice work as opposed to just acting, it sounds like there's a significant difference. And so seeing how they'll do if they keep people for the video games.
Yeah, because it's crazy and a super interesting and cool thing to try to do, but it also is. It's like you said, it'll be interesting to see.
It's risky
if it can be done, because from everything, I mean, we're hardcore anime lovers, and we love all the animated movies of DC and stuff. It's nice to. It'd be cool to see if it can be done. I've heard that voice acting is very, very hard. I've heard it's even harder than regular acting.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's gonna put them to the test.
Yeah, but going forward, that brings us into the new DCU's first installment, which is going to be not movie installment, but first installment being Creature Commandos, the animated series.
That I was excited to see, especially with the little screenshot they showed in the video, because I read the Creature Commandos during New 52. That was my first intro to them, and there was a lot wrong with the New 52, but that one was an interesting story to read, and I had fun. So I was happy to see that it looked very similar to that art style. And yeah, so I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, and James Gunn, he wrote all of the episodes, I guess. He's written all the episodes out,
which also makes me excited. So yeah, anything he's going to be involved or directly touching, I will have a Peacemaker level of trust in.
So for those of you who don't know about the group Creature Commandos, they're originally a team of classic monsters assembled to fight Nazis. I don't know if that's going to be the same for current times, or we don't know when it's actually even going to be set. But the voice actors have yet to be cast, and a release date has yet to be set as well.
I mean, a lot of that was pretty nebulous, like what he was talking about. Just when things are coming out, more of just a general guideline of this is coming out next and then next. So
after Creature Commandos, a spinoff of Gunn's HBO show Peacemaker called Waller will come out with Viola Davis returning as Amanda Waller, who we know from the Suicide Squad movies. And I think we've seen her in another movie as well, but
Was she in another movie?
I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe she wasn't. See, these
That's the problem.
That's the problem
problem
here.
right there. I was also when you said Waller at first, because in the comics, Waller was whatever for me.
Well, Waller's a bitch, man.
Yeah, that's why she's always causing problems for all the heroes and whatnot. But anyway, so I wasn't as excited, and I guess I just didn't put two and two together that it's most likely going to have something to do with Peacemaker, whether it's however it ties in. But then watching the video after you told me about it and him specifically mentioning him being James Gunn, seeing people from Peacemaker, I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, and it's written by some of the writers of Peacemaker and the Doom Patrol, which, if you haven't seen Doom Patrol, it's really, really fun and funny, and Brendan Fraser. So
Brendan Fraser, anything.
So go check it out. It's really good.
I will say who plays. I'm terrible with actor names. Who'd you say plays Waller now?
Viola Davis.
Yeah, great Waller. She's been a great Waller.
Oh yeah, she's so hardcore.
That has been great to watch because I said not the biggest Waller fan in the comics, but for the movies, she's been doing a great job of bringing the character forward and giving me all the same oh, I hate you vibes from the comic.
After Waller, we have our first film entry, and this does have a year set, not a official release date, but it will be releasing in 2025, and it will kick off the new DCU universe, Superman Legacy.
So you told me about this, and Superman, great. I'm always interested in Superman story. But then watching the video, the image they showed was from my favorite Superman story, All-Star Superman. So I am hoping that there is a relation to that they go through that story in some manner, because that's one of my favorite Superman stories. So that image made me more excited than just the general notice of it.
And it's not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian life and his human upbringing. He is an embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way.
That's an interesting last one now, the American way.
Exactly. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, I wonder when the film's going to be set.
Yeah, because the American way, that idea has changed a lot.
And for those of you who don't know, when Superman originally came out in the comic books, it was mid 1930s. That was very title and saying, truth, justice, and the American way. So it makes me wonder if they're going to set Superman back in a time period where
the propaganda was a little stronger.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see. So I think it's targeting July. As of now, what I have written down is July 11th, 2025. So I guess maybe a somewhat release date. We'll see, because we all know movies get delayed constantly these days. Nothing's ever set in stone.
And as exciting as James Gunn becoming, co-CEO and all of this news, it's great in theory. They still have to prove themselves. So I'm excited for the prospects of each one of these that we're talking about and we'll talk about, but they still have to prove that they're actually going to deliver on that.
The promise is sweet, but
he specifically mentioned in the video about wanting to have the story be front and center, and that being very important. Well, let's make it so. Let's see that. I want to believe that that's coming out. We will see, because the DC doesn't have the best track record for not muddling in the story.
But also another project that he announced that I am really, really excited for and looking forward to is a HBO show called Lanterns. It is a series of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart in a buddy cop type series, where they patrol like a precinct that is around Earth, pretty much, because they're space cops.
Our sector. Oh my God, what was our sector called?
I don't remember.
Shit, I feel bad because I love the Lantern stuff, and I used to read a ton of that.
Green Lantern has, if not some of the best DC runs. Blackest Night, one of the best comic book runs. Like, oh my God, dude! And then we had Brightest Day, which didn't that lead into New 52?
Let me see. Brightest Day. Well, not necessarily. So Brightest Day and then I think Flashpoint came after that, but I don't
That's what it was.
I don't think they were related necessarily.
I just remember reading them so closely.
I feel like they were really close.
But this has me really excited because not only do I love the Green Lantern, we've only gotten one live action adaptation of Green Lantern. That was Ryan Reynolds, and yes, that movie. Yes, that movie was a movie.
Yeah, so I hope this is good because we need a good, solid live action Green Lantern because the animation ones, like DC, they have a good animation track record. So
all of the animated movies are amazing,
great, and I love Jon Stewart too, and Hal Jordan's always great. So it's cool to see them branching out and giving us more of that, and just to see we don't need another origin story of Green Lantern, so to just see them in their element is going to be fun too.
It was funny because I came across a video on TikTok that reminded me of somebody had said that Green Lantern, or that Lanterns has already had a movie, and it's called Lethal Weapon.
Oh my God.
with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover.
Oh my God, wait a minute. Oh, okay, I get you.
So it was just a funny call out. Moving on to the next movie in the lineup, it's called The Authority. It's a movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet, kind of like The Boys. That's what it sounds like to me, or like The Watchmen.
Yeah, I feel like my first intro to these guys was Wildstorm was reading them in the New 52. I knew nothing about them beforehand, so learning about, to be honest, the only ones I remember are Apollo and Midnighter. But I mean, it was interesting. I think in the New 52, what's his name? John's Martian Manhunter was a part of it too, I feel like, or in some manner. Anyway, it was an interesting story. So I'm wondering what they're gonna expand on with it because I don't know anything of their story. So, and
I don't either. But it sounds cool with what James Gunn was saying. I don't know. I mean, it may not be for me, but it's a new set of characters that we haven't seen before, and that's always fun to see. I know that a lot of people jumping over to Marvel, a lot of people didn't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were until those movies came out, and that kind of blew them up. So we'll see if The Authority is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's all just kind of out there. That's great. You're telling me you're going to do The Authority. You're telling me that it's going to be, just what it is, whatever, but you got it. You're going to have to deliver. So that's going to be tough because they need to deliver good material for things that people don't know a lot about, or maybe it's not as mainstream as your Batmans or your Supermans.
Yeah, because we want to see new stories brought to the table.
I just want to see stories, good stories. Give me the comic book stuff. Come on, just if you guys gotta just start, just rip off Marvel, how they do it, their structure and shit. Just rip it off. That's fine.
Next, we have a new HBO Max series called Paradise Lost, which is based off of Paradise Island, which is Themyscira, home of Diana, Wonder Woman. So that should be interesting. It's kind of gonna have a Game of Thrones tone. That's what James Gunn said. We'll see how that does. I know that the first Wonder Woman movie was fantastic.
Baller.
It was amazing. The second one fell hard, though.
I have not seen the second one.
You don't have to see the second one. And now you don't even have to see the second one even more so because it doesn't matter.
Well, good. Saves me some time. But yeah, I mean, I in the comics, I always like the good, Wonder Woman story. So, and I mean, it's Greek mythology mixed in there, which is always a fun time.
And I've never been a fan of Wonder Woman, so until the more recent movie, which I thought was stunning and amazing. But I've never really been a fan of Wonder Woman, so I'm excited to see another new project that can make me like the character and her background more. The next movie on James Gunn's list is called The Brave and the Bold.
This was one of the ones I was most looking forward to.
Yes, The Brave and the Bold is a Batman comic, or based off of a Batman comic, and it will have our boy Batman, Bruce Wayne, and his son, Damian Wayne, as Robin, and we'll get to have the first the DCU introduction of the Bat family. So we'll kind of get that set in stone. That'll be nice to see because we haven't seen Robins and Batwomen in a while. I mean, I know that Batwoman had a show, and I know that Batgirl has been here and there. And unfortunately, before this change, the Batgirl film got canceled, which was really sad because we all really wanted to see that.
We haven't seen them as a Bat family. They're all disjointed. They're not interconnected in any way. Like, I don't even need, like, if you have a Nightwing movie, I don't even need Batman to be in it the whole time. But if he's like, oh shit, I gotta talk to Batman, or Batman's in there for 2 seconds just to be like, be safe, or you're not allowed to do that. Just a connection, just to show me that we have a greater world, showing me that it's not just these little isolated stories, that, connection.
We haven't seen a joining in Batman like this since Batman and Robin or Batman Forever. So it's been a while. It's a long time coming. I'm excited. We'll see. I'm excited. Another thing real quick before I move on down this list, another thing that I'm really excited for is the casting of these characters. Batman and Superman particularly, I want to know who's going to do it. Because I imagine since they're doing The Brave and the Bold, we'll have this Batman's probably going to have to be in his 30s.
Yeah. I mean, he's having he's having a kid, and he doesn't go through that until he's, well into his Batmaning.
Yeah, so
I mean, unless they change it. Now that'll be interesting too. Are they going to keep the traditional, this is a Batman and Talia al Ghul clone? Is this, where they, where are they going to start this, and where is it going to go? Yeah. I am interested. Of course, they only told us the very little. The fact that it's based off of the Grant Morrison run, which I had to look that up to see which one it was, and that was a really good run. It has some of my favorite comics in there, like the Midnight Clown, I think that's what it was. Anyway, Grant Morrison's also just always good for storytelling. So if they use that for inspiration, gonna be gold.
Perfect.
Well, okay, I can't say that. Should be gold.
Yeah, should be gold. Moving on to gold things. Booster Gold. Bam, 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 bam.
Second favorite thing on this list, Booster Gold.
Yeah, Booster Gold is getting an HBO Max series, and for the lesser, he's a cult following hero. So many people love Booster Gold, but obviously so many people don't know about Booster Gold in the general public. But Booster Gold is what is he? He's a time traveler.
Yep. So he's from the far future. He's a loser in the far future, and he takes, future tech that is amazing that would be amazing to us, but mundane to them. Travels back in time using his future knowledge of crimes and stuff like that to just be famous, to just be a famous superhero.
Because he's just kind of like one of those guys that's just I just want to matter.
When he comes on, or when you're usually introduced to him, was it the only live adaptation we have is freaking Smallville, and they got it right. He's just a dickhead from the future, and comes in, and of course he goes through his change to becoming a real hero. But Booster Gold is super important to a lot of different story arcs, especially when it comes to time travel, things like that. He's all over the place. So bringing him to the forefront, I think, will be fun. And he is just like a nice little piece, to have to be able to throw into other stories like he is in the comics.
It's really, really fun and cool, and it's such a cool character to bring in. I don't know if you saw, Booster Gold was introduced in Legends of Tomorrow, the show. Turk from Scrubs played him.
What? No, get out of here. So there's 2 live actions then. I didn't know about that.
He was in like a couple of episodes. I don't think it was like a main character. I never watched the show, so cut me some slack. But it's just one of the things
Turk from Scrubs.
Turk's
That's
from
great.
Scrubs,
I bet he
man.
killed it too.
Yeah, I saw the clip on YouTube. I thought it was great.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go home and watch that clip.
Moving on into a different set of tones are a couple of projects concluding the announcement, which is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and it's supposed to be a darker story of Supergirl. I mean, her story's already dark because unlike Clark Kent, she gets to, witness the fall of Krypton, and
she's unfortunately old enough to remember it.
And it's super sad. She is Clark Kent's cousin, Kal-El's cousin.
Yeah, so I mean, I am curious to see what they take. Like, is it right after she gets to Earth? Has she been on Earth for a while? Is she even on Earth? Are they doing something else? Like, because I think canonically she just drifts in her ship until one day landing on Earth.
So she's gonna have a much darker and much different upcoming. Like, once she actually makes it into the world of DC that we're getting.
They could do, I mean, like, because you could do a lot with that story, because, you got this person who's massively traumatized, who, like, has this cousin who's, could be, if they're going with it, this golden child of the world that everybody loves, and now, she's, not only does she have to deal mentally with, like, what happened on Krypton, because especially if she's been, cryoed this whole time, like waking up being like, okay, I'm alive. A lot of time has passed. Good, I have family. Now all this expectation is thrust on me. And so you can play a lot with that level of like PTSD and kind of having to work through it, being a hero, if she even wants to be a hero. Like,
yeah, that depends on if she actually wants to follow through and Cal's footstep.
Yeah, because I mean, I could see a great story where, like, just because you have powers doesn't mean you, like, inherently need to or want to be a hero, especially if you're dealing with all this other stuff.
Well, I mean, look at Zod.
Yeah, like, I mean, so she could just be a hurt person that has to deal with this and, has to get into these situations of maybe helping people or having to help Clark, and, she's also not, depending on where the story, she wouldn't have the same sensibilities as Clark because, I don't know which Kryptonians they're going to go off of, but, in her mind, these Earthlings could be nothing to her.
Exactly. She could be a problem.
Yeah. that, necessarily might not be morally wrong to her.
We could get a good Superman fight, a confrontation between cousins. But yeah, moving on to the last announcement. We are getting Swamp Thing, and it sounds like Swamp Thing is going to be a standalone DC Elseworlds movie. I don't know if you caught that in the end of the video, but
I didn't hear it was going to be Elseworlds.
Yeah, James Gunn kind of mentioned that it's going to stand outside the DCU, so I'm assuming that means DC Elseworlds.
I wonder what they're going to do then.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be a horror film. Which is perfect because is a scary character.
I mean, he's the Swamp Thing, or was it
creature from the
Black
Lagoon?
Yeah, I mean, he's a classic. Depending on which one they go with, because in some of the newer comics, I honestly don't know his old stuff, but like. With the green and the rot and the red, like,
and we'll get to see this character's like origin. So,
which is gnarly. Do you remember his origin?
I don't remember his origin.
He's
nope. Don't even tell me. I'm just gonna stay away from it.
Fine.
I just want to be surprised.
Fine. I will be interested to see how they do it if they keep it the same, because it would be relevant to today's world.
And like after I watch it, then I'll check out Swamp Thing
Yeah.
comics and see, and I'll do comparisons because I like to do that. I'm doing that currently with the Last of Us episodes. Like one of the reasons why I'm watching the show is because I love watching the differences in comparison. If you have listened to the episodes, you know that I've said that. But yeah, that is what James Gunn is putting out for the next 8 to 10 years.
It was a very optimistic video, and I mean, I am, more excited about DC than I've been in years.
Exactly. Like I'm a Marvel fan. I'm not like, I love all superheroes and like I love the comic book world, but like Marvel has been my home. Stan Lee has, inspired me to no end. Spider-Man is my favorite character. I just like how warm-hearted that Marvel is. And if on the other side of the coin we have DC, who is cold and dark.
They messed up. They kept messing up, and they lost the confidence of the fans. So
I feel like they tried to compete with Marvel too much and try and start their universe in a different way when they should have just copied them. It shouldn't have been a big deal copying them, but they really should have just did like solo movie, team up movie. Like it should have just gone that way. But now it's all messed up. And then, of course, Warner Bros. Hasn't been the easiest of people to work with in movies in general. I've heard that from a couple of actors. And, now they're making different choices and different moves. And we'll see where it's going.
If they just keep their fucking hands off of this stuff and let these people who are writing the stories do what they need to, maybe they can salvage their entire DC thing.
Let the fans have control. And we will get good content. So that's going to conclude today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Pedro is a fantastic guest. If you want to hear more of Pedro.
Yeah, so I do another podcast, NCRP Productions. So we do actual play role-playing games. So we do, a multitude of them. We have some D&D, Pugmire, Unhallowed Metropolis, Aliens, Kids on Bike, Morkborg. Those are just some of them. So we try to do less mainstream ones as well as some of the more mainstream ones. So yeah, you can find us at Twitter, all the other stuff at NCRP Productions, and my own personal Twitter if you want to check me out, GM Pedro C. So yeah, thanks for having me, Siege. This was fun.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to having you back on the show again, and, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Night all.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Again, I just want to thank you all for tuning in and listening to the show. Thank you for your support. It goes a long way. Do not forget to go to YouTube and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Otherwise, you can find me on all other audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Google, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. So go over there, check me out, give me a follow, throw up some likes, and give me some feedback. Hit me up on my Instagram and Twitter, the Calvin Cam. There's so much more content to come. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. See you again soon.